Dave Ingebretson, and once again LeRoy Hyatt and I would like to welcome you to another edition of Fly Tying, the Angler's Art. And I so often start out by saying I'm excited about today's show, and that's the case here, because first we're going to tie kind of an old standard, basically an Eastern fly, but it's good anywhere.
Absolutely.
And then we're going to tie, that's the dark Cahill. Then we're going to tie a fly called the Krystal Flash Soft Hackle. We're going to use some old materials tied in a new way, and I think that's going to be interesting to you. And finally, we're going to tie a bass fly using some brand new materials that are so new, we only got them 2 days ago and we haven't even tied the pattern yet.
Let me attempt to tie.
But it's a good looking fly using an exciting new material that's good for steelhead flies, bass flies, Atlantic salmon flies, all sorts of things.
Sure would.
That fly is going to be called the laced diver. So LeRoy, tell us about the dark Cahill.
Okay, dark Cahill first. We use an 8/0 rusty brown tying thread. The wing material will be the mallard wood duck. The hackle and the tail will be the ginger hackle, and the body material will be the muskrat, gray muskrat. Now I have a size 12 hook in the vise. I've already pinched the barb on it. So I'll go ahead and start the tying thread. I start it right up against the eye of the hook and run about halfway back. Now I'll take a spade hackle, which is off the side of these necks. Pull this off the side right here is where you get the good tailing and wing material, except
you're
for
put
wing.
The tail in before the wings.
Nope, I grabbed the wrong one. I'm going to get the mallard, the
wood
duck. I'll get it right in a minute. I'm going to get the wood duck. I'll peel off that back section, and I'm just going to tie it in back here by the stem. Now I know that's going to be way too long, but then just pull it through till it gets to the right length.
Which is about the length of
the shank of the hook. Then I'll bind it down a little tighter. I'll trim off this back section. I'll stand this wing up. I got a little bit too much room there. I'm going to come forward just 3 or 4 more wraps. I don't need all that much room in front. Then I'll wrap in front of the wing, divide them out evenly as you can, and sometimes that can get a little tricky. Then I'm just going to figure 8 between the two.
Around the hook shank and between
around the hook shank and between the wings.
Now here's where I often, you don't have to do it now, but here's where I often do a little trick I learned from George Harvey many years ago, is to pull these wings together tightly, and you can do it with hair wings or whatever. Take a horizontal figure 8 around the base of the wings without going around the hook.
Oh.
And the trick is, after you go around one, to pull down. If you pull straight towards you, it'll flip off the wing every time. So you just very gently pull it down, then go around the other one and pull it down, then wrap it on the hook. And it just clumps everything together. But those are such great wings, I wouldn't bother.
Oh, they are. All right, now here I have the spade hackle off that ginger hackle. Ginger neck, I should say. I pulled several fibers off, which will become the tail. I'm going to lay them there and just measure them. I want them again the length of the shank. I'll
and I
change
must say,
hands.
this is the advantage of using a cape over the great saddles. The great saddles are wonderful to tie from, but they don't have the tailing material.
Yeah, all the hackles are too small, at least for the most part.
They don't have the good stiff spade hackles.
Now, I'll get the muskrat dubbing.
And this is the only difference between a regular light Cahill and the dark Cahill, is in the body. A light Cahill would have the light amber, ginger, whatever body, cream body, and the dark Cahill has the gray. And so it's the only difference.
Now this one, I'm not going to make a dubbing loop with it. I'm just going to wrap it on.
Really sparse on the thread.
Extremely sparse.
Because remember, this is an Eastern style fly. We don't want to over hackle it, and we don't want to over dub it. We need a nice tight little body.
And then just wrap it on. Going back just slightly, I want to make sure I get that all filled in there.
And oftentimes, even with the dubbing, you can use a soft turn around the tail just to pull it all together without splaying it. And that looks good. That's fine. That's good.
And long little fiber
being an Eastern fly now, I would not leave too much room for a lot of hackle.
Well, I may have left more than I should have on this one.
Let me show you one more little thing. Let's do something. George Harvey's got a new way, and you've got room there to do it. Put just a little more dubbing on the thread now and dub between the hackle and the wing. And
Dug
what that'll
between
do,
the hackle without the
no, leave it there.
leave the hackle on.
We'll ad-lib this. Now
Okay.
you've got the hackle on. Now put another little turn of fur ahead of the hackle and behind the wing, and that'll put your first turns of hackle over that fur.
Okay.
And if you've got a long enough stem, now go toward the wing, toward the wing.
I am.
If you've got a long stem, now George likes that because it stands everything up at right angles, and it works very, very well.
By doing that forward like that, I may be able to get enough.
Well, what you can do too before you start wrapping the hackle is take just a little dubbing and make a little turn around the head, but ahead of the wing, but you don't have to. And George doesn't normally do that.
Now I'm going to move those wings to the back.
You want the thread ahead of the wing,
Yep.
about halfway up to the eye of the hook so there's space.
I'm going to have to run that thread up a little more.
I didn't mean to pull a fast one on you here, but it just occurred to me with that spacing, it was perfect to do this.
Threw it off. There, I broke it.
I didn't mean to throw you a curve.
Oh, that's all right.
But it's a neat trick that probably people haven't seen before. And it's the way I know George Harvey is now wrapping his hackle. You see how that stands it up?
Mm-hmm.
So nice.
I may end up having to put that second hackle on because
I
broke
no,
this
no,
one.
just go ahead of the wing now with a couple of turns. A couple of turns is all you need.
The hackle.
That's all right. That's plenty right there.
Well, I got too much head out there, though, I think.
No.
Okay.
You can just make a nice, we don't want to over hackle this. You know, that Eastern style of tying, nice little, that looks good to me. I think that looks good. But see how nice that back hackle stands up?
Mm-hmm.
Where you've gone over the body? And
just build a little
that's it, yeah.
head right
now,
there.
again, I apologize for throwing your curve in mid-fly there.
I'd never heard that before.
But I realized you had enough space to do it, and it's a trick that people ought to know about. Experiment with it, and the trick is leave the stem a little bit long.
Yeah.
And so you can wrap over that.
Well, there's a dark Cahill. The wing material is the wood duck. The tail and the hackle is the ginger hackle, and the body is gray muskrat.
Good looking fly. Now we're going to tie a new fly using old materials in a new way. And this is called the Krystal Flash soft hackle. We're going to use the old material Krystal Flash, and we're going to use an old bead head technique. But there's going to be something unusual about both of these uses, so watch closely.
And I'm going to do the bead head maybe a little different too than some people have seen. All right, for the material, I'll use a black 8/0 tying thread. We'll use black Krystal Flash. Now green could also be used. The peacock green could be used for this. We use a Hungarian partridge feather for the soft hackle. Here's the little brass bead of which we'll come up to it, and I'll use a little bit of lead wire, which makes this just a little bit different maybe than some have seen. Now I have a size 10 hook in the vise. I have the bead on it already. And what I'm going to do is just take a little bit of lead wire and make 3 or 4 quick wraps here. I'm going to clip that off, front and back, and then I'm just going to slide that bead or the lead right inside that bead. What that does is totally center the bead. That way it isn't cocked back and forth.
You could also put some of your rubber-based cement under there.
Could definitely put
Don't need it.
No, could do.
Because we're going to hold it in place a couple of ways.
Now what I'm going to do, I can't let that slide. I mean, it'll slide further ahead, but I got to watch to keep that bead on the about in that thorax area, because I got to go to the front.
Well, and this isn't the unusual use. So the bead, it's not going to be a bead head, it's going to be a bead thorax.
Bead thorax, that's correct.
The hackle is going to go in front of the bead.
I'm going to take, I don't know, 6 or 8 strands of this black Krystal Flash, tie them in place, and this fly can be tied very small too. And now I'll come up to the front again.
But now here's another difference. Instead of using a few strands of Krystal Flash in a tail or as a tail or in a wing or in the hackle, we're going to twist it up and make a body out of it. Yep.
So I've captured it with my hackle pliers, and now I'm just going to twist it. Just twist it up. Don't want to go
Now,
too
did you
tight
notice
with it.
he had it held in his hackle pliers, but he was using a twisting tool to twist
Just
it
a
all.
little shepherd's crook,
It
they
made it go a
call
little
them.
faster.
And then just wrap this material forward. It also gives it just a little bit of a segmented look too. If
Oh,
you wanted
sure.
to twist that not quite as tight, it would flow on a little easier, but I kind of like that kind of a segmented
Oh, yeah,
look
and
to
look
it.
at the sparkle in it.
Yeah, it just really does shine nice. I'm going to tie this off here to the rear, and I just pulled too hard on it. And now it's all bound down. Now what I'm going to do is put a whip finish right here. And get my thread off. Slide this right back to that body. And I'm going to come right to the front again.
Now that bead's really held in place very well.
There's no way it could move. Get a good wrap here.
You've got a little extra weight from the lead. It's really going to sink the fly.
Very minimal weight there, but some.
Some.
Then we'll take one of these Hungarian partridge. And what I've done, I've just made a little V, and I have the tip of that wing sticking out there now. I'm going to clip it. I want to leave as much of that as I can, and when I get it clipped off, I'll show you what I'm saying. You can see still a little bit there, but now I have a little section I can tie on right there.
You're tying in the tip of the fly.
I'm tying in the tip of the fly.
And Hungarian partridge is so
Oh,
soft, you've got to have a
extremely
delicate
soft.
touch when you're winding the hackle. A delicate touch so you don't break
And
it.
we may end up breaking it.
Well,
but,
I do fairly regularly.
Oh, I do too.
And I vacillate back and forth between whether to tie in by the tip or the butt, and I do it either way.
And now as I wrap, I'm just going to continue forcing those barbs to the rear, back over that thorax, back over the ball, the bead, which made the thorax.
Looks great. Looks great.
That bead will also hold those hackle fibers away from the body
Yeah.
and make them work that much harder.
Oh, I think it's a great looking fly. Now,
And
one
then
thing
just build-
that's kind of come up here, we've talked about a delicate touch, but I think one thing that is a lot of fly tyers don't use enough force on their thread.
Oh, and they leave it too loose.
And it's too loose. And you don't notice it when we're watching LeRoy tie, but I know that in most cases you're putting all the stress on that thread that it can stand. And through experience you've learned what that is. So rather than put that extra fraction of an ounce and break it, you go right up to that
Up
point.
to it. In fact, I tell classes that I teach, put a hook in the vise, wrap the thread on it, and then pull till you feel when that thread breaks.
And I will
Now
say
you
one
know.
thing, the 6/0 you're using is extremely strong.
Yes, it is.
We both
Very
use the
strong.
same type of thread, and it's
Yes.
extremely strong, and you can really work on it for deer hair or anything. The 8/0 isn't quite as strong.
Well, there's a Krystal Flash soft hackle. I would say that fly would, any lake, I would
Oh,
put
yeah.
that in and make the fly work.
Yeah.
Has the black twisted Krystal Flash for the body, has the bead for the thorax, and it has the Hungarian partridge for the soft hackle.
And that's the first time either one of us have seen the fly.
Never have
I
seen
think it
the
looks
fly
great.
tied. It does.
All right, now we've got a real moment of a combination of excitement and trepidation. I think that's how to put it. Excitement
I don't know
because
about you, but I'm frightened.
excited because we're going to tie something we haven't done before. A little trepidation because when you tie a new pattern, it usually takes a few tries to make it work out and to get your moves down. The reason we haven't tied this before is we just got the appropriate materials a day ago. We know already we have the wrong hook because the hook that was called for by the pattern, now the fly we're going to tie is called a laced diver. Laced diver. Because it uses something called an American laced hen hackle. LeRoy will show you what that is. And it was a fly developed in Colorado by Al Beatty. It's a bass fly. The reason we haven't tied it before, we were just looking for other bass patterns to use, and we came across this fly, and it looked so good and so spectacular. We knew it'd be a good fly, and we wanted to tie it. So we tracked down some of the materials. The hook that originally was called for was made by one of the prominent Norwegian hook makers, and they're number 3366, but we couldn't find out what hook that was.
Nobody knew.
And I went to a large nearby city and went into the fly shop. They didn't even have a conversion table could tell us what the hook was. We know that it was a ringed eye, a straight eye hook, which you want on a diver rather than turned up or turned down. So LeRoy, what hook did we finally settle on?
Oh, don't ask me that. I don't remember. We've been
I think it's
through
a
some
4,
many.
a
It's
size
a size
4.
4, but I don't
Yeah.
remember the number of it.
No.
But I'm going to use a black 6/0 tying thread. This is the white, American white hen hackle. This is the lace feather that he was talking about. It is new, and I'll show you that feather more as we go through it.
It's just called American Laced
American
Hen.
lace hen. Then we'll have white bucktail for the throat and for the over or underwing, and then we'll have deer hair for the overwing and for the head, which will also make it the diver. Now I have the hook and the vise. I have pinched the barb. I'll start off with the tying thread like always, and I'll run this back about halfway. Now I have these feathers pretty well lined up just for the sake of time to make it go a little quicker.
You're tying in 2 matched on each side,
Two
right?
matched on each side.
And these are the American hen.
White hen. Now there's the two on
And
the side
understand
opposite
that we're
me.
tying in the tail now, not a streamer wing as you'd expect.
This one then I'll tie in on my side, and I want that to be as close to the same length as I can make it to the other one. I want to get rid of those.
Of course, this is a bass fly, so it's got a big tail. It's not a typical streamer.
Now this is the lace feather that we talked about. I'm going to put the one on my side first, then I'll flip it over and you'll be able to see what I'm talking about
Now, I
here.
know the laced comes in yellow laced and white laced. I'm not sure if it comes in any others, but you can just see it would be a great feather to use in steelhead flies, salmon flies, cheeks on a streamer.
Oh yeah, it would work for that.
Oh yeah. I'm excited about it, and as I say, we haven't used the material before, but look at it. It's just
Now you can see how
spectacular.
it just totally
Yeah.
outlines
Isn't that nice?
everything.
Yeah.
Now,
Good.
I'll get the bucktail. We're going to put just a little bit of white bucktail in for an overwing and for a throat. Get rid as much of, get them as even as I can. For bucktail, that's kind of hard to do. This will just stream out over the back, the top, I should say. I'll cinch it down, just kind of separate it out a little. Someday I'm going to run into Al and have him show me how he tied this fly.
Yeah. But oh, I like the looks of that already.
Then we'll take another clump and again do the same thing. Get it as even as I can. Then I'm going to turn it over and tie it on the bottom side. I'm going to get rid of the butts on those. Cinch it down.
And here, oftentimes, I put in a little bit of your rubber-based cement to help hold those in. But
For sake of time, I'm
use
not going to
use
do
plenty
it.
of force on your thread, and those aren't going to come loose.
No, not at all. Now we'll get the deer hair. I do not want this deer hair now to be as long as that lace feather. I gotta have them a little shorter, but I also have to leave the butts fairly long to make the collar for the diver section.
Right.
So I'll hold this in place, cinch it down, and take several good wraps on it. Now you can see how that's going to flare out and just kind of really silhouette all of that. I'll get my tying thread in front.
This is another interesting way of tying. You're tying in a collar that's going to help bring the fly up, but you're going to tie a tight head and slope it downward to help the fly dive. And I think that's neat.
And I'll take another clump here. I'm going to have to do this in 3 sections to get a good collar on that. I'll get my tying thread in front again, squeeze it together. Then this one, when I put it in, I do not trim the tips off. I put those right out over the eye of the hook.
Now, regular viewers have seen you do that before, but I think that's really a great move because so often people that tie deer hair heads have trouble binding down stubby end butts.
Well,
And when you have the long part sticking forward, now you can
just
see
gives you something to hang on
it's a
to.
handle, you can stroke it back, and there are no stumps in there at all. It's beautiful. And I gotta say, that's a trick that I learned from you, and I try to do it all the time now. But it's just beautiful.
Small whip finish on it, and get rid of that tying thread.
Oh, I like the looks of that already.
Now, I'm going to start tying, or start clipping this hair, just at an angle. This will make a head.
The head you're clipping.
Yes.
Well, as I've told you before, I admire your hair work so much.
I enjoy working with it.
It's so well done. And you tie so many various hair flies, and they're just wonderful. My hair flies are so much better since I've been watching you do it. I've really learned a lot from you on hair.
You're saying you used to have bad hair days.
Bad hair day, I guess.
Okay. Now I'm just going on around, making this collar just as round and even as I can.
Of course, a lot of this too is the deer hair you use is so spectacularly good.
Well, you got to have the good
hair.
yeah.
You can't just take a clump of hair from a deer. It's got to come from the right place and not have a lot of underfur and not be curly. And this patch of hair you're working from is a spectacular piece of hair.
It helps. Now, I've done so much of it, I don't really pay that much attention anymore.
Yeah.
Just the mother of necessity, kind of. But there's the collar around it. You can see, again, like with any deer hair fly, you never know when to quit trimming. I could just keep trimming and trimming on here.
Oh, I like that.
But that's not a bad looking fly, Dave.
No, and it's going to catch some bass, I can tell you.
And that lace feather just shines out through there.
And you could also tie it using the yellow lace and tie it as a yellow pattern.
Use yellow deer hair.
Yeah.
But I'll put a little head cement down in there. Cinch it all in place. And there's a lace diver. What we've used is white American hen hackle that's surrounded by the lace feather. And we've used white bucktail.
Isn't that nice?
Oh, it is. Then white bucktail for the wing, underwing. Then the overwing is natural deer hair. The head is and collar are trimmed. And when you twitch that, it will dive down. And then as you release pressure, this collar will just pop it right back up.
Yeah.
And there's a lace diver.
Now, there's mixed thoughts on it. Some people would coat the front of that diving head with head cement to make it harder, so it would dive better. Other people say no, they don't like that.
It won't pop up as well.
It won't pop up as well. So there you got to take your choice on that. But LeRoy, I just think you outdid yourself the first time around on a new pattern. And
that's a scary one the first time
it
through.
really is, but it looks so good, and you can see why we picked it out of the book. Well, you tune in next week. There's no telling what you're going to see. Tie some good flies, and thanks for joining us. We'll see you in a week.
Dave and LeRoy have produced 2 100-minute videos covering basic trout fly selection and tying for the western and eastern United States. For basic western and eastern flies videos, call 1-800-883-0124 or visit our website at publictelevision.org. Cost of each video is $16.95 or get both for just $31.95 plus shipping and handling. You can also order the programs from this series. Each videotape includes 3 programs for just $22.95 plus shipping and handling. To order, call 1-800-883-0124 or visit us at our website publictelevision.org.
For more information on this series, please visit our website, publictelevision.org.